I wonder if maybe we can talk a little bit about those times when we are feeling angry at God, maybe resentful, and prayer is not even something we want to do because we're going through a season, maybe a dark season. And you talk about like these dark nights of the soul. And these are probably the hardest times to come to prayer because we don't even feel like God's listening or cares for us. And but part of like being open means going to God during those times. And I was wondering if maybe you can kind of talk about that.
Yeah. So I think that when you were asking about kind of ways I've changed in my views of prayer over the years, I think that because prayer was mostly about my own words or self-expression, that I thought sort of I have my belief, and out of my own belief, I go to prayer and express my belief. But I actually think much more prayer kind of there's more of a symbiotic relationship between prayer and belief, and that, of course, to some extent, I mean, any sort of entering into prayer, because I don't want to just say if you get up in the morning and go through your day, that's prayer. I mean, if prayer is everything, then it's nothing to some extent. So any sort of like practice of prayer, or even um, even sort of opening yourself up to silent prayer in the car as you're driving. I mean, I'm just saying, even just kind of very ordinary moments um, of calling on God, however that looks. Um, uh, there's some volition involved. There's some will involved. You kind of decide to do that often. Maybe not always. There's been times I've sort of fallen into prayer, but that's because I've developed a habit, right? And so at some point there was some sort of volition in that. So what I'm saying is there is some our own choice or belief involved. Um, but often I come with really, like I say this in the book, but I think um, the in scripture, when the man says to Jesus, "I believe, help my unbelief," I think a lot of my prayer is that. And so I come with my kind of small belief, my like wavering and sort of quivering belief to God. And and particularly when I use the prayers of the church, I've the received prayers in the liturgy, I come to that, and it's helpful because I don't have to come up with my own words, or I don't have to be like full of ardor and faith. My step of faith is to enter into this practice that I've been given, and then that practice works back on me, so that prayer actually, instead of I have my belief and therefore I pray, prayer teaches us to believe. It shapes our belief. um, and so I mean, I quote James K. Smith in the book saying that oftentimes we show up to church and say, I'm struggling to believe. I'm struggling and I don't know. So I need you to like sing over me. I need you to pray, like to help me enter into prayer through the words of the church. I need your belief to carry me. And so, um, instead of belief being this kind of subjective thing inside us that waxes and wanes, that we sometimes feel and sometimes don't, belief is this. I mean, that I'll say this: the truth of Christianity is this thing outside of us. It's either true or not true, regardless of how we feel about it. If I feel it as deeply, deeply true, and I'm wrong, it's still not true. And if I feel it's not true and I'm wrong, and it's still true. So because of that, if I've come to see belief as almost this room that I step into, that's bigger than me, that outlasts me, that I can participate in or not participate in, but it's not reliant on how I'm feeling about things that day. The creeds say we believe, right? Not I believe. And I'm not trying to pin those against each other. Like, I mean, I can say I do believe the creeds, and yet, if I had to take my spiritual temperature every single Sunday and decide how much do I believe this, how deeply, how am I feeling about it, I just think that's exhausting. And so the spiritual life has to be sustained by us believing together, and by this being a bigger thing at work than how I feel at a given moment. That I'm stepping into something that's larger than my own faith, because my faith is constantly, I believe, help my unbelief. That's constantly where I live.
Hey, thank you so much for checking out this video clip from the Dogato podcast. To get more videos like this, simply subscribe here on YouTube. You can also download the full episode of each show on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, or your favorite podcast player. Take care.